What about me? What about me when you go to the light? No, I get it, okay? I get it. You'll be okay. You'll be fine. But what about me?
Katherine Heigl's career trajectory is one of the strangest in modern Hollywood. In just 1 year, she went from earning $300,000 per movie to commanding $6 million. 3 years after that, she was asking for $15 million per film and appearing on magazine covers as one of the most desirable women in the world. Then, almost as quickly as she'd risen, she vanished. By the mid-2000s, she was back to direct-to-video releases, racking up Golden Raspberry nominations, and watching TV shows get canceled after single seasons. So what happened? Was it bad luck? Bad choices? Or did the industry simply decide her time was up? The thing is, Heigl didn't just stumble into Hollywood. She'd been working for years before anyone really noticed her. A lot of people probably remember her from Under Siege too. Dark Territory. That mid-90s action sequel where Steven Seagal protected her from various thugs on a train. But that film flopped at the box office and got destroyed by critics, so it did absolutely nothing for her career. After that, Heigl basically disappeared into what can only be described as the wilderness of direct-to-video movies and forgettable TV series. We're talking about a solid decade of work that nobody saw or cared about. She even appeared in a 1998 horror film called Bug Buster, which is exactly the kind of bottom-of-the-barrel project it sounds like. There were a few bright spots during those years. Her movie Wish Upon a Star became surprisingly popular on home video in the late 90s, and she worked alongside Danielle Harris, who'd appeared in Bruce Willis's The Last Boy Scout. But these were small wins in an otherwise stalled career. Heigl was working, sure, but she wasn't going anywhere. That all changed when she landed a role on Grey's Anatomy. The show became a cultural phenomenon, pulling in more than 20 million viewers at its peak. Suddenly, Hollywood producers were paying attention. But even then, Heigl's big break required a significant dose of luck. In 2006, Universal Pictures and Judd Apatow were developing a spin-off of The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which had been a massive hit the year before. That film grossed $180 million worldwide on just a $26 million budget and launched Steve Carell into the stratosphere. The studio wanted to keep the momentum going, and since Carell was already committed to projects like Evan Almighty, they shifted focus to Seth Rogen, who had played a supporting role in the original film. When the script was nearly finished, Apatow decided to make it a standalone movie instead of a direct continuation. The studio backed him up. Here's where it gets interesting. Anne Hathaway was originally cast as the female lead. She was trying to break away from her wholesome Princess Diaries image and wanted to take on something edgier, but Hathaway and Apatow couldn't agree on the character. She wanted to tweak the role, reshape it into something different. Apatow refused. Feeling that the jump from family-friendly princess movies to a raunchy pregnancy comedy was too extreme, Hathaway dropped out. The studio scrambled to hold new auditions. Katherine Heigl showed up and beat out Jennifer Love Hewitt, whose career was also struggling at the time. Apatow went with Heigl. And just like that, her entire trajectory changed. Knocked Up became a huge hit in the United States, grossing $146 million at the box office on a $30 million budget. Internationally, it pulled in another $70 million. On top of that, the movie made a killing on home video, earning $120 million in DVD sales alone. The film launched both Seth Rogen's and Katherine Heigl's careers overnight, but their trajectories diverged almost immediately. While Rogen's star rose steadily, his fees never reached Heigl's level. She'd earned $300,000 for Knocked Up, but for her next film, 27 Dresses, she asked for $6 million. The studio paid it. Then came The Ugly Truth, another hit. Gerard Butler earned $3 million for his role. Heigl got $6 million again. But with a $38 million budget, that movie grossed $200 million worldwide. 3 hits in a row made her a superstar. In 2008 and 2009, she topped magazine lists of the most beautiful and desirable women in the world. MTV gave her a nomination for Best Actress. Sure, that award doesn't carry much weight in terms of actual acting credibility, but it shows how popular she'd become with audiences. For her next 2 movies, Heigl demanded $12 million each. Life as We Know It managed to keep its budget somewhat under control, since there wasn't another big-name actor involved. Killers, on the other hand, was a different story entirely. Life as We Know It had a $38 million budget and grossed $105 million. The movie wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't a home run either. Josh Duhamel had high hopes for it too, but Most of the films he starred in during that period either underperformed or tanked completely, and his career never really took off. If the mediocre performance of Life as We Know It was a warning bell, then Killers was a full-on red flag. This became Katherine Heigl's most expensive film to date. Ashton Kutcher, who played the male lead, earned half of what she did. With a $75 million budget, Killers brought in only $98 million at the box office. That's a failure by any standard, especially when you factor in marketing costs. Anyone else in Heigl's position might have reconsidered their approach to choosing roles or even switched agents. But Katherine ignored the signs and demanded $15 million for her next project. On paper, One for the Money seemed like a sure thing. The plot was based on Janet Ivanovich's best-selling novel of the same name, which was hugely popular in the United States. The director was Julie Ann Robinson, who'd previously helmed The Last Song, an adaptation of a Nicholas Sparks novel that performed well in theaters and was generally well-liked by audiences. Heigl was even promised a $5 million pay bump for the sequel, which Lakeshore Entertainment planned to start filming right after One for the Money hit theaters. Here's the thing. Janet Ivanovich's Stephanie Plum series now includes over 30 novels, all bestsellers. If the film had been a hit, Heigl could have secured work for years to come. She would have had a franchise. Instead, the movie, despite a $40 million budget, brought in only $36 million. But it was crushed at the box office by a cheaper Liam Neeson movie, where he spent most of the runtime running through the snow being chased by hungry wolves. Naturally, the studio immediately dropped all plans for sequels. To make matters worse, Katherine Heigl was nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award, something she'd managed to avoid until 2012. Up until then, she'd mostly received positive recognition. She'd earned multiple Screen Actors Guild Award nominations and received 2 Golden Globe nods. In 2008, she even won an Emmy for her work on Grey's Anatomy. The failure of One for the Money was a major blow. As her next move, she decided to appear in a star-studded ensemble film, giving up her usual front and center spot on the poster. But even with a cast that included Robert De Niro, Susan Sarandon, Ben Barnes, and Diane Keaton, the film flopped at the box office. Worse yet, Heigl earned another Golden Raspberry nomination for her performance. The same year, the studio decided not to release Jackie and Ryan, which starred Heigl, in theaters and sent it straight to home video. The industry began to write her off. In an effort to stay relevant, Heigl began publicly criticizing some of her past films, accusing them of sexism, especially Knocked Up in the Ugly Truth. That might have also played a role in her decline. While Judd Apatow, a powerful figure in Hollywood, publicly stated that he wasn't upset by Heigl's comments, he may have taken them personally. Later, Heigl apologized for her harsh criticism, but the damage was done. It didn't help revive her career. After another flop, Home Sweet Hell, co-starring Patrick Wilson in 2014, and in yet another Golden Raspberry nomination, Heigl transitioned back to television. In an attempt to repair her image and stage a comeback, she starred in the TV series State of Affairs. Despite having a strong team of producers and directors, including Joe Carnahan, who was known for the Grey and Smokin' Aces, the show pulled poor ratings and was canceled after just 1 season. Following that, Heigl had no choice but to take on lower-tier films. Some weren't even released in theaters, and the ones that were flopped despite their tiny budgets. Worst of all, she kept racking up Golden Raspberry nominations. In 2017, Heigl made another comeback attempt, starring in a legal drama series with a big-name cast. But the show failed to find an audience and was also canceled after just 1 season. In 2021, Heigl starred in yet another flop, Fear of Rain, which currently holds a 5.9 out of 10 rating. Maybe someday she'll return in a solid film, but the level of popularity she had in the late 2000s is probably out of reach now. Many people believe Heigl's biggest issue wasn't even the roles she picked, but the changes in her appearance after she turned 30. She quickly lost her adorable screen presence, and since she wasn't considered a standout acting talent, the public lost interest and producers stopped offering her quality roles. At the peak of her career, she might have been able to lock in a long-term place in Hollywood. Maybe by lowering her demands or stepping outside her usual typecast roles like Demi Moore or Julia Roberts successfully did. But Heigl chose the path of big paychecks, and unfortunately, she wasn't able to sustain it. Her story reveals something important about how Hollywood works, especially for women in comedy. The industry has an incredibly narrow window for rom-com stars. Once your commercial value drops, you get discarded fast. Unlike her male counterparts like Seth Rogen, who continue to thrive and diversify, Heigl faced a compressed timeline where looks, likability, and box office success had to align perfectly. Her public criticism of past films may have been valid, but Hollywood rarely forgives stars who bite the hand that fed them. Once you're labeled difficult or box office poison, the door closes fast. By the time Heigl realized she needed to adapt, the market had already moved on. The rise of streaming and ensemble casts meant fewer $15 million single-star vehicles existed. Her salary demands were becoming outdated even as she made them. In the end, maintaining relationships and adapting to market shifts matters just as much as talent in this industry. At least she made some money along the way. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Katherine Heigl's rise and fall, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what other Hollywood career stories you'd like to see covered next.